am proud of my country's heritage. We're living on freedom soil. Brave men have gone before me here, unafraid to pray and toil.
I was telling you that spiritually what's going on is that men and women are evil, and they're trying, working for the devil, to trick people, get people to worship something besides the true God. We see this in Adam and Eve. It's not men, it's the serpent. It's the devil, okay? Satan. In Genesis 3:4 says, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Remember, that word was the ungodliness one, right? I think that's right. And that's the one where he's teaching that alpha and judgment. You know, judgment was a death sentence. And they're teaching you, this won't hurt you. Yes, it will. It is what's going to hurt you. No, you're not going to die. You're going to disobey God. That's what Satan's telling her. You're going to disobey God. It's not going to hurt you. That's what they do. Right here, starts out, same thing. Goes all through. When they get to Joshua, he dies. And all the elders that went through all the great miracles getting out of Egypt, Israel gets in trouble. They go off. Same thing happened. People talk them into these things, okay? Paul's thorn in the flesh. Remember, it's people. Here, for God doth know, verse 5, then the day ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be opened, you shall be as what? Gods, knowing good and evil. You're going to be your own God. It's the same dog and pony show. It's not going to hurt you, and you're going to be your own God. We're going to see this in Nimrod, and this becomes very important when it comes to government. But we're seeing it here in Romans. Okay, this is where God's showing us the foundations and how it works. Really good to know. Nimrod, when you get to him, pretty interesting character. It says in the Targum of Jonathan, it says this, from the foundations of the world none was ever found like Nimrod, powerful in hunting and rebellious against the Lord. And in the Jerusalem Targum, it says this, he was powerful in hunting and wickedness before the Lord, for he was a hunter of the sons of men. And he said unto them, depart from judgment of the Lord and adhere to the judgment of Nimrod. We go through this. Josephus was a historian, Jewish historian, worked for the Romans. He says this, Nimrod, it was Nimrod, now it was Nimrod, who excited them, that's the people, to such an affront and contempt of God. Okay. He was the grandson of Ham. Cush was his father, and he was the son of Noah. Ham was the son of Noah. A bold man, this Nimrod, and of great strength of hand. He persuaded them, the people, not to ascribe it, that's life and good, to God. As if it were through his means, okay, they were happy. But to believe that it was their own courage which procured that happiness. Remember the devil with Adam and Eve? Ye shall be as gods. He also gradually changed the government into a tyranny, seeing no other way of turning men from the fear of God, the respect, reverence, and awe of God, but to bring them into a constant dependence upon Nimrod's own power. In, I think it's Alexander Hislop's book, that he points out something that's important in our understanding of what's going to go on here. And when we get to Babel, this all fits together. Okay, we've seen in Romans chapter 1 evil men who are withholding the truth, okay, and convincing people, they're worshiping other things. That's what happens. It's happened throughout. Here we're talking about Nimrod, who did the first thing. If you track back idolatry, worship of, the Roman gods, the Greek gods, anyone you want, they all go back to Nimrod, his mommy, daddy, and his wife. Spreads out from there, change the names, all this stuff. That being said, it all goes back to this. He's the one that started after the flood. This is all after the flood. In Genesis, in chapter 10, 11, it talks about out of the land went forth Asher and builded Nineveh. And that's what he's talking about here. And he says, I'm persuaded that the whole perplexity that commentators have hitherto felt in considering this passage arises from the supposing that there is a proper name in the passage, where in reality no proper name exists, like John Doe. Asshur, Asshur, is the passive participle of a verb which in its Chaldean sense signifies to make strong, and consequently signifies being strengthened. The reason you need to understand this is that you're going to have to see that Nimrod is setting up what is for the first time a one world government. Okay? He's in charge. We'll go on here. It's being strengthened or made strong. Thus, reading the whole passage is natural and easy. Verse 10, of 10:10. And the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calnith. And beginning, he goes on and says, naturally implies something to succeed, and here we find it. Verse 11, out of that land he, Nimrod, went forth being made strong. And when he had been made strong, Asshur, and builded Nineveh, and goes on. He says, now this exactly agrees with the statement of the ancient historian Justin. Nisus, this is the statement, strengthened the greatness of his acquired dominion by continuing possessions, having subdued therefore his neighbors, when by an accession of force, being still further strengthened, he went forth against. The point to this is that Nimrod was against God. Nimrod was a great hunter in the face of God. And he was the one who began all of the going away from God. We have this man, and he forms a government. What we're going to see in Babel will be all hinge on this. Be very good to help us. In Romans 1:28, I want you to see something. And that is this, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge. It's really difficult. You have in the human, or in any animal, mammal, a sperm and an egg comes together and forms a cell. And that cell divides. It divides into two, and then it keeps dividing, and it makes a human being. The thought of that's so incredible, and yet people who study these things, go into the depths of it, somehow can't understand that something with love, something with great ability, it took to make that, to produce that. You have this whole universe, the planets in our solar system being minute. And yet, even though their planes cross over each other, they don't run into each other. If you or I set it up, there'd be planets bumping into each other all over the place, stars crashing in. It'd be a mess. God made this magnificent thing, and people study it. They get degrees. The one that gets me is they get great degrees, and I'm very appreciative of that. But they didn't sit at home eating Twinkies, and somebody come by and say, hey, about 12 years after they've been sat down and started to watch TV and eat Twinkies, somebody came by and said, hey, I got an extra doctor's degree. You want it? They go, yeah, I'll take it. And they take it just like that straw guy in that movie. They get it, and as soon as they get it, now they got brains. Now they worked. They know it took hard work. It takes effort to do something. Things don't just happen. You have to work at it. And yet, for some crazy reason, they think that the universe just happened. It's insane. Anyways, and even as they, verse 28, did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to reprobate mind, and to do those things which are not convenient. Again, we have this word alpha. It's used in the context of being without. Okay? And it's without the ability to make a proper approval, to think right. You get to Matthew 17:25. Peter had been confronted by people in the local community. He said, don't your boss pay tax? Pay the city tax? Oh, yeah, he does, of course. We get along. And when he comes back, Jesus Christ confronts him. He says, hey, and he saith unto him, yes. And when he was coming to the house, Jesus prevented him. He stood before him. That's what that word prevents means, to go before. Saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom of tribute? Of their own children or of strangers? Jesus Christ is a citizen of the community. And this tax that they want to collect, he doesn't have to pay because he's a citizen there. Okay? And he says this word thinketh. What thinkest thou, Simon? Okay, Matthew 17:25. That's this word. And it's making a judgment. Okay, it's thinking, making a decision. It happens again in Matthew 18:12. You want to look at that one. How think ye? If a man have 100 sheep and one of them has gone astray. Again, just asking for a proper decision. Matthew 21:28. But what think ye? A certain man had 2 sons. And he came to the first and said, son, go do the work. And he said, oh yeah, I'm going to go. No, he said, I will not. The first one said, I will not. And afterwards he repented and he went and worked. And the second one he went and said, go do it. And he said, sure, Dad. And then he did go to work. Well, which one actually went to work? Which one actually got the job done? This word think, but what think ye? Again, we're asking for you to think, to make a conclusion, make a judgment, make a decision. After you start down this road in Romans 1:18, and going on through, it gets to the end, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And these are the things that come out of this. You start out with these evil men, okay? They're convincing people to worship something besides the true God. That takes you to idolatry, okay? People are going to worship something else. They are. You're not getting away from that. Then you come to homosexuality, okay? Homosexuality is a marker. When you see rampant homosexuality, okay, first off, if you can get people born again, get them delivered, that's what you do. You got your own problems. I mean, we all got to control our thinking. It's a marker. It tells us this is going on in the society and culture. As you see it start to blossom and bloom, what you need to understand is people are more and more getting convinced that something besides the true God by Jesus Christ is what's going to help them. What is the solution to this? You go back to Romans, to the beginning, and it says this is the gospel of God pertaining or concerning his Son, Jesus Christ. That's our Lord. That's the solution. This is what gives people a sound mind. This is what gets people out of trouble. This is what keeps us on the up and up and keeps us having a more abundant life. The gospel of God pertaining to his Son, which is all of the book of Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Thessalonians. He lays out this gospel of God. It's tremendous stuff. This is the solution. We're talking about how they got into trouble, okay? Folks at this point can make decisions all day long, but they can't make a good decision. They can't make a right judgment. That's why you get all kinds of things that seem silly and wrong and evil. Goes back to this start. The answer, gospel of God, needs to be taught. But you're starting to understand, and we're starting to understand how this whole thing started. We're going to show you how it worked in government. We'll come back to it.
Yes, our God still bears his mighty arm when men to him are Lord.